The man awakened a strange and useless skill. Except for making him hungry, it seemed to have no effect at all. But one day, after he killed a thief, the skill that he thought was useless suddenly changed. His stats increased sharply, and he gained the skills of appraisal and mind reading. At the same time, his hunger disappeared. It turned out that his gluttony skill was not about eating in the literal sense, but rather about devouring the souls of the enemies he defeated and taking their skills and stats. That also meant that from this day on, his life would completely change. In this world where the strength of one's skill determines everything, Jack had always been forced to live at the bottom. Not only was his gluttony skill useless, its side effect of constant hunger made life even harder. After much struggle, he finally found a job as a city gate guard. But the high-ranking nobles disliked him, and every time they saw him, they made sure to humiliate him. Although he was angry, Jack could only endure. The paladins of this world were people he could not afford to offend. However, there was one exception, a girl, who showed him kindness and told him to come to her if he ever got into trouble. But Jack didn't dare to accept her offer, because that would only make things worse for him. The look in the leader's eyes was enough of a warning. After switching shifts with Rax, Jack went to a restaurant to have a meal. The owner kindly warned him that if he kept going like this, he would end up like the previous guard. Apparently, the three paladins already had a terrible reputation in the city. Before Jack, several guards had already died because of them. But Jack had no choice. Without this job, he would starve to death. His gluttony skill had locked him into this path. All jobs in this world required a matching skill. If he went out to hunt monsters, he would just get killed instead. While he was lost in thought, he suddenly noticed a figure on the city wall. He suspected a thief had sneaked in, so he quickly reported it to Rax. If something went wrong, Jack would be the one blamed for being on duty. The report immediately drew Rax's attention. As a paladin, he was confident he could handle it, so he told Jack to stay and keep watch. About 2.5 minutes later, Jack heard the scream of a thief. Just when he thought it was all over, another thief suddenly appeared before him. It seemed Rax had missed one. Jack's first instinct was to run, but then he remembered it was Rax's shift that night. If something happened, Rax would be punished. So Jack hesitated. The thief had already lost one arm, so Jack gritted his teeth and decided to fight. Fortunately, nothing went wrong. Jack killed the thief successfully, but the moment he did, a system sound echoed in his mind. The gluttony skill had activated. His stats increased again, and two new skills, appraisal and mind reading, were added. While Jack was still confused, Rax came back. When he saw the thief's body, he panicked. At first, Jack thought he was imagining it, but later, when he went home, he realized it was just like what he saw on his panel, the effect of mind reading. But that was strange. People were only born with one skill. Still, if his stats had increased, that meant he could finally go out and hunt monsters for money. The next morning, he went to a weapon shop, but when the merchant saw Jack only had 2 silver coins, he was stunned. That kind of money could only buy rusty scrap metal. Yet that was the savings Jack had accumulated over 5 years. He figured it was still better than going unarmed. He picked up a sword and used appraisal. Its durability and attack power were both 0. Jack didn't lose hope. He patiently appraised each weapon one by one. Finally, he came to the last sword. Just when he thought it would also be trash, the sword suddenly spoke. The merchant didn't seem to hear it, so Jack quickly used appraisal again. Because of that, he decided without hesitation. After obtaining this mysterious sword, he went straight to the wilderness. Although it was his first time fighting goblins, his stats had already improved significantly. After a dangerous but short battle, he managed to kill one successfully. At the same time, his stats increased again, and he gained a new skill, strength enhancement. Before he could even test it, more goblins appeared in front of him. He remembered that where there was one goblin, hundreds more would follow. He had no time to think. Jack could only brace himself and fight. Despite the chaos, he noticed something strange. He didn't feel tired at all. Every time he killed a goblin, the system's sound rang again and again. He lost count of how many he had killed. When he finally checked his panel, he was shocked. His stats had become unbelievably high. But strangely, his level hadn't increased at all. Normally, when stats increased, the level should rise too. Then the sword, whose name was Grid, explained. This was the special nature of gluttony. The price for stealing stats and skills was that he could not gain experience. Grid also asked Jack if he was still hungry. Only then did Jack realize that his stomach hadn't growled all day. Jack couldn't help but ask why Grid knew so much about gluttony. Grid simply said that it was because they were the same kind. He warned Jack never to reveal this skill to anyone because it defied the very laws of the gods. After making a pact with the sword, Jack was ready to return. But Grid stopped him and reminded him to collect the goblin's ears. Those materials were quite valuable. It wasn't surprising that Jack didn't know. After all, it was his first time hunting monsters. After exchanging the ears for 3 silver coins, Jack's first thought was to treat himself to a big meal. But Grid complained, saying the first thing he should do was take care of him and polish his blade, because a sword like him deserved to be treated like a gem. As they argued, a young man suddenly bumped into Jack. At the same time, a girl's cry for help came from nearby. Jack turned and immediately realized something was wrong. The girl was being threatened. Without hesitation, he activated his appraisal skill. But strangely, it only showed the man's stats and not his skills. Jack tried to save the girl from a group of bandits. According to his appraisal skill, his stats were about the same as theirs. But the problem was that his opponent had hidden skills. One wrong move, and he would be dead. While Jack struggled, unsure what to do, Grid told him to use nearby obstacles for a surprise attack. Jack followed the sword's advice. But the enemy was alert, and his strike failed to finish him off. When the opponent's hand began to glow, Jack instantly realized it was a battle skill. Such people had a huge advantage in combat. Then Grid told him to fight head-on. Though confused, Jack obeyed. With one simple swing, he cut the man down instantly, even without any battle skill of his own. It was clear that this sword was not ordinary. After interrogating the dying bandit, Jack learned the truth. The one who had ordered this crime was actually a paladin, one of the 3 high-ranking men who despised him. It seemed that the paladin had certain secret habits that could never be made public, but knowing that changed nothing. Jack was still too weak to act. He needed to grow stronger first. After returning the girls safely home, Jack finally checked his status panel. He found that his stats had risen sharply, and he had gained a new skill, Sharp Edge, which allowed him to strike twice in one attack. Grid explained this ability, and Jack realized just how close to death he had been. If he had known the risk, he might never have tried to play the hero. Still, his desire for strength grew stronger than ever. The next day was his first day working at Rokus's mansion. After awakening the gluttony skill, Jack had quit his job as a city gate guard and accepted the offer to work for Rokus. Although he could now earn money by hunting monsters, he didn't want to miss the chance to be closer to the woman he called a goddess. Before they could discuss anything important, Jack suddenly felt a wave of hunger, but he had eaten properly that morning. Before he could understand what was happening, his vision went black and he collapsed. When he came to, he was lying in his own home. On the table was an envelope, proof that the goddess had brought him back safe. At that moment, Grid explained what had happened. Once the gluttony skill awakened, ordinary food could no longer fill him. He had to kill every day, or he would either starve to death or lose his sanity and become a monster. When hunger reached its extreme, it showed in his eyes. A temporary transformation created to devour souls more efficiently. In this state, Jack gained night vision and the power to paralyze weaker beings. He tested it himself. The goblins that once took effort to defeat now stood frozen, unable to move as he cut them down one by one. With every kill, his stats rose and his hunger eased, but never completely. Low-level goblins were no longer enough, so Jack ventured deep into the forest to hunt stronger ones. After killing countless goblins, he finally felt satisfied. But just then, a sound nearby caught his attention. Before him stood a far stronger goblin, the Goblin King. Its stats reached 5 digits, and it possessed a healing skill. In just one night, Jack's own stats rose to match it. That healing ability was exactly what he wanted, so he decided to hunt the Goblin King. He watched silently as the monster devoured a human corpse, waiting for the right moment. When the king relaxed, Jack struck from behind. Thanks to Grid's power, he quickly found an opening and beheaded his enemy. The moment the battle ended, Jack's stats skyrocketed to 40,000, and he gained the healing skill. Greed spoke again. His current stat total was enough to unlock the first ascension, but the cost was all of Jack's current power. Anyone else would have hesitated, but Jack didn't. Without a second thought, he agreed. At once, he felt his power drain away. Eventually, a new form appeared before him. Greed had unlocked its magic attack form. Soon after, Jack helped with harvesting grapes and encountered kobolds threatening the village. But when he saw their king, a violent hunger surged within him. The Kobold King was far stronger than him, a titled monster with overwhelming power. That night, Jack decided to act alone. Using Greed's bow form, he slaughtered the kobolds one by one. With each kill, his power grew. Soon, only the king remained. After a fierce battle and a near-death moment, Jack unleashed his full strength. Their attacks collided, but the result was one-sided. The Kobold King was obliterated instantly. As he absorbed its soul, a wave of euphoria surged through him. But Greed warned him. This was the side effect of consuming a high-quality soul. The next morning, when others arrived, they found nothing but destruction. No one knew what had happened. As for Jack, he understood one thing clearly. His hunger would never truly disappear. And after tasting such powerful prey, his craving had only grown stronger. Now he had to decide where to go next.